All right, hello everyone. My name is Spehn. Today we're going to be talking about the security club that we built out and what we wish we knew in the beginning. I'm the one that originally created it, and Adam ended up taking over. So first, I'm just going to talk a little bit about myself and my background. Really, I'm a gamer first and a hacker second. I grew up hacking video games, finding some very popular item duplication methods in Diablo 2. I'm also a former professional gamer. Used to play for Evil Geniuses with Dota. If you happen to play Dota, talk to me later. I'm a hacker. I mostly do red team stuff. I'm known for CTF and working on the iDroid project and that sort of thing. I'm from the iPhone hacking community. Now Adam's going to tell you a little bit about himself.
So Chris is a gamer first. I'm actually a researcher and academic first. I actually do a bunch of AI research and distributed systems research. So I spend most of my day doing that. And then I met Chris at one point, and he kind of got me into hacking, and that's how this happened. Most of my hacking stuff is programming, so I've helped build tools like Phishing Frenzy and some other stuff up there. But I now do mostly just programming security tools.
So basically, we're just going to start off by telling the story of how this really got started, how I actually created it all. And it all stemmed from a little competition called CCDC. The Collegiate Cyber Defense Competition. If you're not familiar with it, you should check it out. People have differing opinions on that competition, but depending what region you're in. But I wanted to do really well at the competition. So the whole idea was I create ISUSec, I'll get people interested, maybe attract some more people that are a little more experienced with system administration and networking, and we'll do a lot better in this competition. That's not exactly what happened, but it ended up turning into a great thing, and it ended up being much bigger than I ever thought it would be. For 2 years, I sat and gave presentations coming up with new content. That's one thing about like creating something like this yourself, is you're the one that's going to have to provide for everyone else. So that means you're going to have to push yourself harder than anyone else is, and you're going to have to learn more than everyone else so that you can be able to explain and convey it properly to everyone. Because not everyone learns the same, not everyone thinks the same. So you're going to be able to explain things multiple ways and have multiple metaphors for when that happens. So it really just stemmed from wanting to do well in CCDC, and it turned into this huge thing. Eventually we got professors backing us, and I'd say people were very skeptical of us at first. The security professors were really great about backing us, but the rest of the university was pretty sketch about it, I'd say. But I always preach that you don't shit where you eat. If you're going to go hack some stuff, you don't do it on ISU's network, because, most importantly, that's going to come back to me first, and that's not going to be fun. We had a few incidents like that, but, you deal with it and move on. But generally, if you're running the club, you're going to get blamed for that type of stuff. So be prepared for that as well. And so, everything that happened when I created it doesn't exactly stay silent. So like in the beginning, it was really about I just had to focus on recruitment. So what I did is like Dr. Seger is actually sitting in the back here, one of the security professors that sponsored the club. I went out and he gave some recommendations like, oh, why don't you go speak at all the different classes to see if you can get people interested. So I went around to every single class for months, and I gave my little 5-minute spiel. Okay, I'm creating this security club called ISUSec. You get access to the security lab as well. We're going to go over, networking. We're going to do pen testing. We're going to do all this type of stuff, because the only way to protect yourself is to learn these techniques. And that was kind of the main pitch. I really pitched it from like a pen testing hacking perspective, because that's what people really resonate with and are typically a little more interested in when they're in college. They're not like, oh, I want to be the best system administrator ever, and it just doesn't work like that. It's like, they're like, I want to be a pen tester, That's how I always was as well. Like, I want to be a pen tester. I want to be a hacker, I want to break shit. But, as you progress, pen testing becomes way less sexy. And actually, the blue team side becomes much more interesting to you, because you really understand all these attacks. And some of them are pretty complicated to actually mitigate. So, after recruiting all of these people, thought I found some good sysadmins and stuff, formed the next year's CCDC team, had a lot of backing from the university. That didn't go well, CCDC, we didn't place well there. Adam did place well 1 year. but I didn't personally. From there, like, we're like, well, we need to make this more official so the university isn't so sketch about us. So some of the other guys actually looked into becoming a registered student organization. And I don't think that actually happened for like 2 years. Dr. Sayers is kind of nodding there, so that seems about right on the timeline.
We've become a registered student organization since Let It Lapse, then become one, then since Let It Lapse several times. So it's up in the air as to whether we are one right now or not. Certainly people at the university seem to think we both are and are not at this moment. So.
Yeah, and I think the main thing starting out was, I mean, I was even trying to get involved with CCDC. One of the other professors was running it, and I was talking to him about the iDroid project and stuff, and he didn't seem interested in getting me involved. And you know, eventually I did more of this iDroid project stuff, and it really got me some claim to fame. And then they started getting me involved. Ironically, it was actually the way I got involved with CCDC and all this to begin with. Playing the first year was I got caught for cheating on programming. Someone had copied my code. And so I was having a discussion with him and asking him all these questions. He's like, you should get involved with CCDC. So how ironic, you know, get caught for cheating supposedly and then really get involved. But, you know, like I said, CCDC didn't do that well. We had a little lab. The lab really started out as a closet. And that's where that's where we were meeting. It was like me and a couple other people in this little closet. We had old machines that we had gotten from like networking or whoever else at the university, basically all the stuff they didn't want, really old machines. And so I sat in there and I would even go through just like hardening Windows systems and stuff like that. That was super boring at first. Like people really weren't into it. So that's why I really started going more the red team route and starting to go around to all the classes and like, hey, I'm going to teach you how to hack. Like I've been hacking for a long time. I know how to do this stuff and I'll push myself further. And we can actually learn this stuff together and grow and feed off of each other. So then after that, I was like, well, maybe I'll actually get some professionals to come in to like back up what I'm actually saying, because I'm just a student too, like everyone else. So I actually had a few professionals come down. David Young from Discover, because I interned at Discover. He came down and spoke. I had a couple of recruiters come down and speak. I think that's really important. But the main thing is, I didn't really have any idea what the fuck I was doing. Like I had no clue at all. I was just kind of winging it. I was like, yeah, I guess we're going to talk about Nmap today. You know, this is how a SYN stealth scan works. And that's kind of how it went. But it turned into this big thing. And definitely once Adam took over, it got way more organized and that sort of thing. Like, honestly, when I ran it, it was kind of just like this little kind of crazy chaos community that did whatever. Like, yeah, the motivation was to do well in competitions, but that didn't work out so well. I'd say one of the things that Adam really did was get all the university support, and I'll let him talk about that a little more.
So, I mean, one of the things that had to happen at some point is that we basically were this like group of people meeting in a lab, and we would say we were hackers. And if you say you're a hacker to a director of the university, they immediately freak out. Like you can just watch this look of sheer terror just go over their face as they go, oh my God, what have we done? And I'm going to talk about this a little bit more later in the slide, but it's important that you have a little bit of a pitch to be like, no, we aren't hacking your stuff, I promise. And for all the members who are going to hack things, have conversations with them at some point, and please explain to them that if you hack the university's things, it comes back on the club. It's happened, Lopi's had it happen to him, I've had it to me, where we've gotten calls from people upstairs that basically say, yeah, so this box was popped. You wouldn't happen to know anything about this. And I just go, hold on one second. Like, I'll go check back here. But it is important that you like have basically a little elevator pitch almost to go back and say, no, like we're not hacking. And in some point, it helps to be a security club if that works better as a descriptor of yourself, because that's less scary and there's a lot more jobs in that. So you can say, look, we're a cybersecurity club instead of an ethical hacking club, because cybersecurity has jobs and university administrators love the words job.
Yeah, you know, it's especially even when you're doing public speaking engagements, like he's saying, this elevator pitch going around to all the classes is like, not to say hacking, to say that you're teaching pen testing, you know? Use the proper terminology, make sure you go out there, do your research, know the terms that you need to use to spin it. That's like one of the main things that I did wrong, I would say. And Adam was really good about coming in and kind of helping with that. At least I did it really wrong at first, and then I started to learn. You know, I kind of set a precedent, and Adam really took that to the next level. So I would even, at conferences even, like I say public speaking, but I would even go to conferences, and every time I talk to someone, I would bring up this club. Even if you ask around now, people know about ISUSec. And that's for a reason. Like, we've promoted it a lot. It's not like we just sat around and did nothing. You know, like every conference that I was at, every person that I talked to, I told them about ISUSec. This is what I was doing. That's another important thing to do when you're at cons in general.
This also has the fringe benefit of you will occasionally meet people who are A, alumni, or B, local to you, who want to come and speak or want to come help and contribute, which is a great way to kind of get in touch with the community in some sense. Some of the speakers we've had were literally because we were sitting at an after party or something. We're like, hey, we run ISUSec, and they were like, oh, I live 10 minutes from you. You want me to come talk to your students sometime?
I think the greatest example of public speaking I have now is from last night. I did a drunk talk/rant last night about education and mentorship, and the guy's actually sitting in the back of the room. I won't point him out, but he came up to me and he said he agreed with everything I said and tell me about Hack for Kids. Well, we got to talking. He's ISU alumni and he works Project Zero for Google. He's one of the 8 members of that. So, you know, you never know who people are going to be, and it's best to just go out there and say what you think and speak your mind and promote your stuff. I mean, even if other people think it sucks, it's what matters is what you think about it. You know, if you think you're doing good things, then keep doing it. Like, don't listen to the naysayers. Don't listen to the negativity. We had a lot of that whenever we were doing it. At least I had a lot of it, particularly. I think we still get it sometimes. I mean, I'm further disconnected from the club than Adam is, but it comes into the whole political thing, right? You need to be using the right terminology. You need to know who you're talking to. If you're talking to a director, you need to speak to them way different than you're talking to the students. You know, it's a different level of engagement. And so it's something that you also learn in business, but, you know, it's better to learn it at a university than to learn it live and make mistakes. So this is really how you make more money. I mean, I ended up making a bunch of money because of all the stuff that I did. Money's great, but really it's that I actually get to run a pen test team now and do everything that I want to do. So, you know, Morpheus is probably all about the money, but I'm not, you know. I'd happily do this for free, to be honest.
It is a lot of fun, and that's something I think people don't get, is that you will meet some interesting people, you will make a lot of friends, and it's a lot of fun. On the other hand, Chris is right. It is actually also incredibly hard work, and I have newfound respect for my professors and other people who put content on day after day after trying to put content on once a week. So
I mean, like, this goes into like the benefits of everything. Like some of the benefits that I've incurred. I have a huge social network now. Even just walking around like this con or DerbyCon or any conference, my girlfriend's here with me, and like she's pretty much having to just stand there and like not really get in the conversation because like so many people are coming up to me and saying hi, but that's because I've really gone out and made an effort to say, hey, I'm Chris. I'm from Illinois State University. I created the security club. What are you doing? What are you up to right now? And it can be as simple as that. You could even just be a member of it. You could even just be like playing with Nmap in your free time. Like, it's really important to go out and actually talk to people and tell them what you're doing. If you don't do that, no one's ever going to give you what you want. You're not going to get what you want. Like, if you wanted that pen test job or whatever, you got to talk to every person that you can. Like, I see a few pen testers in this room that are really good pen testers for companies. But, you know, they got there from knowing people. It's not only their knowledge, but they knew someone. And that's the main point. So it really helped me grow a lot in general, to be more confident in myself. And that's just way more of a personal thing. I mean, I've interacted with so many different people, so much diversity through the club, as well as just going to all these conferences and like jumpstarting in security, that it's just kind of crazy. One of the biggest things that we had is like, the whole reason I created ISUSec was because the university didn't have the means or resources to provide what I really wanted at the university, which was to learn more technical hands-on security. They were still developing a program at the time. You know, there wasn't really much around from the tech perspective. So in a sense, I really helped grow the Bloomington Normal or Illinois State University security community. It's becoming a lot bigger thing, And I mean, I know Adam showed up at Illinois State University, and he didn't think there would be anyone like him there. And I had done this, and he heard about it, and then he came up there, and I was like, awesome, there's actually another guy that's a hacker here, and he can be able to guide this and grow it even more than I can.
One of the surprising things you'll find, I think, is that people will emerge from the woodwork. We have had people come in who were from an accounting background who like just showed up one day and knew a surprising amount about Linux, and we were very confused. You know, you will meet people, and some of that is ISUSec because it's almost a beacon-ish sort of thing where people just show up and are like, hey, I thought this would be cool. So it's important from that perspective too, because there's no way I would have met half the people had I not been going to ISUSec and met them there.
So I can't really take credit for this, but I helped out with it. Illinois State University created a high school version of CCDC, and so there was a kid named JP who is at this conference now. He's 19 now, and he showed up, and I hacked him all day and stuff, and then he asked me a bunch of questions. I sent him a bunch of resources. Every year he got a lot better, and I'll be honest, in the last year, I did some pretty dirty stuff to actually own him, like social engineer our own white team or blue team that was running the competition, spoofing emails to them to force them to reset boxes so then I could auto-pwn and backdoor his boxes. But that was like more of a personal challenge between him and I. I don't think he really knows that I gamed him like that, but it happens.
White team figured this out. We were less than thrilled.
Yeah, so, JP, after he competed in the competition, he was actually taking math classes at ISU, even though he's a high school student. And he started coming around ISUSec. I think that's another thing that you need to be open to, is anyone should be allowed to come. I think we kind of ran into to some issues, but the professors were able to work it out where if you weren't an IT student, you couldn't get to where our talks and stuff were at, but they were able to make a special list and stuff. And even whenever I wasn't taking IT courses anymore, they got me on that list so I could still access the labs and still come to everything.
That's actually a really important point. We actually did eventually move the location that we gave lectures and labs in, one, for size reasons, and two, because we kept running into this problem where we would have people from outside of IT who wanted to come who weren't able to get into our IT labs. And I would emphasize that as an important point, that if you're thinking about starting a club, consider putting it in a place where everyone as a student can get to it. And even people who aren't students. We've had a couple times over the years where people from the local community who are security oriented have popped in and just said hi. Not really to learn or anything, but just wanted to meet us, knew that we were security people and they were recruiters from the local technical companies. And they had sent either me or Chris an email, and they had been like, yo, I would like to meet you guys. I'd like to stop by and say hi. So putting it in a place where everyone can get to is important.
So by doing the whole Central Illinois high school competition, we did promote a lot of security awareness and security education, not only just through, ISUSec and doing the collegiate talks and that sort of thing. It was, we were reaching people on another level, which was really cool to see. Not only did we educate all these people, but a lot of them became my friends. Like JP, he's, I'm 8 years older than him, but I love that kid to death. He is so smart. And there's a lot of other guys in this audience that I consider friends as well, that if I hadn't created ISUSec, I would have never known them. So you get a lot more out of it than you really think in the beginning. At first, honestly, a lot of my goals behind creating ISUSec were very selfish, very self-centered. It was all about personal growth, It was about, having that on my resume and all that and getting, a nice pen testing job whenever I get out of school. But it really turned into much more than that, and it made me get extremely passionate about security education. And I'm working on some other stuff that I won't mention right now because it's totally different.
I just wanted to comment also, you'll learn things from people who come, and that's important. I know nothing about hardware. I'm really bad at hardware. I've fried multiple boards in my life from doing dumb things. And the way I started learning about hardware is we had an ISUSec member who was really, really good at it, who came and started giving talks. And every time I would be about to do something with hardware, I would send him a message and be like, am I about to do something really dumb? And 90% of the time he'd message me back and be like, no, don't do that. That's bad. So you'll learn a bunch of things too.
I think a lot of what you'll notice is, you know, especially if you're like leading the club and all of that, like really don't let your ego get to you. You know, remain open and transparent. One of the things I was ranting about last night was like, you know, you don't like, there's no secret sauce. You don't hide it. If you have secret sauce, then you release it, you know, like, and you put it out there. You're transparent, open, and you teach others. Like, that's how it works. I mean, even look at stuff like Metasploit, you know, HD Moore put that stuff out there. He could have kept it private. He could have kept it all for himself, but he didn't. Same with Firedoor with Nmap. You know, it's silly to like hold these things or like hold back knowledge if we really want to improve security. And so that was also like, this is really like how I define the culture, is that like we are open and we are transparent. If you do something, you explain how it works and why.
Don't just like get up there and root boxes and be like, look, I rooted a box, and don't explain how you did it. It's important that you are able to be able to teach and walk people through step by step.
Yeah, so we would like, I would do stuff like, at least whenever I was running the club, we would do stuff like over the wire, our war games, and they're really good at teaching basic Linux system administration, at least in the beginning, one called Bandit. And so basically we'd start off, everyone would be like doing Bandit on their own, and I'd give everyone like 30 to 40 minutes of a shot of doing it themselves. Then I would go up and completely think out loud and tell everyone what I was doing, explaining everything that I was doing. And like that goes with the transparency. Like I'm not holding anything back. I am completely thinking out loud. I want everyone to be able to do what I understood already. You know, I wanted them to learn it too. That's the only way it works, you know, and there's no stupid questions. Like if someone like raised hand, yeah, I might have a stupid question. What is this first thing that you're doing? Like, I didn't catch that. Or, you know, I don't have a good example for like a quote unquote stupid question right now, but there are no stupid questions. Like that was the main thing. Like people did that a lot. Like, hey, I got a stupid question for you. I immediately cut them up. There are no stupid questions. Like ask a question.
We've had people who came in knowing literally what a command prompt, didn't know what a command prompt was, and are now working successful pen testing jobs. And they literally just sat there in the back of the classroom, and every time they came across something they didn't understand, which was frequent because they had never done this before. This was their first introduction to this. They would just raise their hand. And one of the interesting things I found out is the adage that if somebody's raising their hand and doesn't know something, there are other people in the room who absolutely are in the same position. So if somebody's raising your hand and asking you a question, and you would think it's obvious because you know you've been doing this for 6 years, and of course that's how the bash shell works. Well, they're doing it. This is their first day. They don't really understand it, and there are 3 other people in the audience who are too shy or too embarrassed to speak up who are also having that question.
I mean, really, please don't make it political. Like, there are other IT clubs out there for Collegiate, like AITP and ACM. I found those clubs to be extremely political. You couldn't really get what you wanted out of them unless you wanted to play like a huge politics game with them. So, I mean, they all do have a way different focus than us, granted. So I was really like, it goes back to providing what didn't exist at ISU already. You know, we needed people to get their hands dirty. Like everyone's focusing on like professional networking, and that's great. But the background that I came from, I went to a technical school where they really taught us a lot about professional networking, and I didn't have a problem going to job fairs or events or anything like that. So I was lucky in the fact that I already had that skill set, but for the people that didn't, we would send them to them. So there's a place for different clubs as well, but please don't make it political.
I mean, there are absolutely clubs that do resume generating stuff, and that's great. There are people that love that, and they do board elections, and they are very serious about their quorums and how many meetings you have to go to get a vote, and it's all very mathy, and I don't really understand it, to be honest, even though I think I've been on one of their boards by accident once. Don't do that. If people want to contribute, if people want to help, just let them help.
And the #1 rule of the club was the golden rule: treat others the way you want to be treated. It's not like, shut the fuck up, noob, you don't know what you're talking about. You have to be polite. It goes back to like dropping your ego. Like, we're not gonna get anything done in security if people don't drop their egos, and we're not gonna educate people if we don't drop our egos.
Also, just a real quick tack on point. One of the other cool things that you can help inspire in some ways is if you have shy members who are really smart, encourage them to help people. There are people in our club that are not perhaps public speakers at some level, or don't want to be, helping people. And you can be the person that's like, no, it's going to be okay. You can step out on stage and say things in front of people, because it's the perfect.
Hi, folks. The Advent Media froze up again, and we don't have any audio until about the 30-minute mark. Sorry for the inconvenience.
what you're talking about. They're sitting in the student life office, and their idea of a club is like the Frisbee club, who plays Frisbee on the quad, which is, by the way, a real club. I actually figured that out. Also, if you have some time and you're a university student, I definitely recommend perusing your registered student organization list. There are some gems in there. We have a Quidditch club. Didn't know about that one either.
I mean, you'd see them playing on the quad all the time, so.
But they are actually a registered student organization, and they get money from the university. Use a calendar to handle the paperwork. There's a bunch of paperwork out there that they'll ask you to turn in by dates or something, and I guarantee you'll forget one piece of it, because I've forgotten like 17 pieces of it. And so just have a calendar somewhere for the officers of the club to know, hey, we need to have everybody sign this piece of paperwork, because it's generally just 5 people need to sign a piece of paper. You need to get a professor to sign a piece of paper and turn it in and write an explanation and have a meeting. But if you forget to do it every like 6 or 12 months, whatever the deadline is, you lose your RSO status. And then if you need to rent university things, rent university rooms, or do anything with the university, you lose the ability to do that.
The main thing, though, just stress that you're being ethical, and it's about the education, about the children. That's a good word, you know.
We're protecting the people.
It's especially if you promote, like, you know, you create something like the Central Illinois High School Cyber Defense Competition. It's especially about the children then. And, like, I know we're all laughing, but this is a real thing. It does work. So
it does. We've had kids from Central High School Cyber Defense Competition come to our program, and we know because we can track them, and go into security. And I've met some of them now that they're freshmen, because they started when I was a freshman. And I've said, oh, you know, how's it going? Like, what did you, and they're like, oh yeah, no, you really turned me on to security with that event. I never would have done security ever before in my life, and I decided that was really cool. So you will actually meet people and change what they're doing.
I think to go back to the example of JP, whenever he first came to that competition, I don't think he had any interest in security at all. It was just about programming and doing whatever and just having a good time. But it's really flipped, and he got super interested in it, and he got an internship. He graduated high school and then started interning for Motorola right after that. And now he's majoring in physics at U of I. So it's, you know, it's interesting how things work out and the impact that you can have on people just by doing this simple event. Start it off small, one step at a time, and eventually, you know, build and grow it to something great. And, you know, I'm sure there's going to be many more stories like JP, but that's just like my personal example.
Yeah, we're kind of picking on JP because we asked him ahead of time if we could use his name a bunch in public, so.
Yeah, so budgets. I didn't really have one or get one, but that's probably my own fault at the same time. The professors would take money out of their budget to get us stuff, basically.
Thank you, by the way.
So, you know, we pretty much did what we could with what we had. I mean, I would even use some of my own personal servers for like some of the mini CTFs that we would do. So, you know, like, there's a lot of little things that you can do. Like, I happen to have, like, a couple lockpicking sets and a bunch of practice locks and stuff, so I could bring that stuff in. There's also, like, if you keep investing in yourself as well, eventually you're all going to have enough stuff to kind of share together and be able to learn and grow together.
This is how actually we do lockpicking to this day, is we put out an email or a chat message, and we're like, everybody bring your lockpicking stuff. We're doing lockpicking today. Because we don't have a set of dedicated lockpicking equipment for the university. And it works really well because people come and have weird things. We actually know a couple people with software-defined radios. So when we want to do a software-defined radio lesson, we just say, hey, can you guys bring in your software-defined radios for the day?
It goes back to, like, the community and culture of it. Like, you have to be a community. You have to stand together. You have to help each other.
I, on the other hand, managed to get a budget, and I think that's because I'm the most annoying person on earth, and if you didn't give me money, I just kind of sat in your office until you did. I'm kind of joking, kind of serious. You'll need to hound people. Once again, it stresses coming back to being the ethical organization. Also, please don't put hacking in your organization title. I'll save you a lot of like stress in advance. Put like Collegiate Cyber Defense or something, or cybersecurity, something that's very benign. Because accountants really don't like giving money to hacking. So the two tips I have for you are find a student project budget. There's definitely one somewhere in your university. It may be at your department level, it may be at the university level, but it's basically a budget that's founded by some company or some individual to help you as students learn and build cool projects outside of class. So find one of those, and then if you have a project, go ask for money. It's surprisingly easy. They'll ask you for like 3 or 4 pages of what you're doing and a budget and some parts and stuff, and then they'll just give you money. It's kind of surprisingly a little bit too easy in my opinion, but and the other is the university has an RSO budget generally, or an organization budget where they give money to organizations who are registered who can prove that they're doing something to benefit the community. Now, the way we've never successfully gotten this because they define the community a little bit too large, but we know other security clubs that we've talked to who do events that like the high school cyber defense that helps outreach to the community, and they define it as under that. So those are both kind of pockets of stuff you can look for. The other thing is if you have a security professor who's doing research and he got a grant and you are also doing research in that area, you can either help him as like basically an intern, or you can ask to borrow some of his grant money, which he may not give you because grant money is hard to get, to use that as well. Make sure you always frame your requests as educational. Don't ask for money for pizza and pop. You're never going to get that. But if you're like, hey, we need this software-defined radio because we want to do research and do 3G, you're a lot more likely to get that than you are if you're like, hey, I want to order 20 pizzas because my members are hungry and I do attract attendance.
So whenever I did the math, we definitely couldn't afford the cat. Adam took over, it got a lot better. I really failed in that regard, but I also had quite the attitude and was like, if they didn't give me stuff, I was like, all right, fuck you then, I'll do this myself. I'll make it happen anyway. So I was pretty determined, pretty motivated, but maybe not necessarily the right attitude.
I just showed up next week again, and the week after again. And then they gave me money eventually. So this is something that's really important, IT and legal, and there are two aspects that you're definitely going to run into at some point, and they're definitely two aspects that can make your life significantly harder. So Chris is right, you should buy them donuts if you have to, and I did actually buy our IT and legal staff cookies at one point, so I can't really say that it doesn't work. But one of the things, real quick practical tip, is make sure your IT knows what IP range your boxes come off of, because you're going to be doing weird shit over the network and they will 100% flag you for hacking. If they have any sort of IDS, we've actually binned multiple ports on our network and had multiple ports on our network get shut down because we decided we wanted to like brute force some website or something to teach people. So that's just like a practical tip. Make sure IT is aware of what you're doing, because otherwise they're going to get really suspicious and send a bunch of emails. And eventually, if you get big enough and you get successful enough, you're going to run into legal. And legal are some really nice people. I adore legal. But their job is basically to stop the university from getting in trouble. And so they will tell you no a lot. It's basically their job to tell you no much more often than it is to say yes. And it's important to listen to them. And there are points when you cannot listen to them. And there are points that are like, hey, this is a bad idea. And there are points that like, no, you're going to go to jail for a felony for 20 years if you do this. The points when they tell you you're going to go to jail for 20 years and it's a felony, you should listen to them at that point because they're really serious about that.
Yeah, I didn't. I had like some run-ins with IT, but not necessarily legal. Legal kind of left me alone. I'm pretty surprised by that, to be honest. But I just don't think it had enough attention until Adam really took over when we had like a much bigger attendance for them to pay attention to us. But there were a few times where, you ARP spoof on the wrong interface and then get a bunch of ports shut down, and they don't like that either. So, mistakes can be made. Fortunately, I think I only made one mistake while I was there and got one port shut down just because I wasn't paying attention to what I was doing. But hey, that can also happen in production environments when you're doing pen testing. So attention to detail.
Yeah, we moved into a new lab and we started doing security things over it and got the entire lab shut down for a bit, like 2 days, until we had to call and clarify and be like, this is the security. And they're like, oh, the security people, we have a special group for you. Hold on, let's put you back in the special rule group.
So public speaking, this goes back to a lot of what we were saying before about recruitment, and promoting it. Doesn't always have to be about recruitment. there's a lot of different stuff that you can do. A lot of different places that you can go. It's not just about like giving presentations at ISUSec or at Illinois State University. It's also about going other places and giving presentations. And, you know, even the presentations at ISUSec don't always have to be technical. They can be about physical security. You know, we've mentioned lockpicking before. We do a lot of that.
Good way to make friends with, by the way, the other departments or other student groups is what I mean, is you can tell them you're doing a lockpicking event. It's basically, you don't need to know anything to kind of get started. So it's a fun thing. It's also something we do, like a big kickoff meeting for all the clubs where we try and recruit, and we'll bring lockpicks there. And people learn to love to lockpick for some reason. So it's a good way to kind of get other people very quickly into security to some sense.
Yeah, I remember one time when we had a lockpicking event, and there was one kid that was so into it that I gave him a couple tension wrenches and picks because he was way more interested than I was, and like my stuff was just laying around. So I gave it to him. Then he came back like a month later, and he's just like picking everything.
You'll teach somebody about something, and they'll run with it, and you'll come back, and it'll be pretty. They'll learn a lot more than you very quickly.
Yeah, it'll be like, wow, I guess I really sucked at that. You know.
Local meetups are important. One of the things we don't have is a local meetup in our town, but we're close enough to Chicago that we sometimes drive up there and go to BurbSec, if any of you have heard of that. You'll meet other community people that way. It's a good thing to do. They'll teach you things / you know, be valuable contacts in the future. Plus they just have entertaining stories generally. So one other thing also is there are other universities around you who are doing security clubbish type things. Find them, find their leaders, and keep in contact with them. We know a couple that are around Illinois. If you are planning on starting one in Illinois or even any of the surrounding states, and you want to get in touch with us, we'd love to talk to you. We try and arrange some cross-university stuff to just kind of get people to know each other. And we see each other at cons and, you know, go to dinner at cons and stuff like that. But it's a good thing to know other security clubs in the area that are also doing things that you could possibly do things with.
Yeah, I'd say especially on the university front, when you start competing in these national competitions, you'll start meeting a lot of other people. Like if any of you guys know in here know Forgotten Sec, that's how I met him. We both competed in NCL together, and I think he got second and I got first. But he's from no, he's not from Rose-Hulman. I know I met some other guys from Rose-Hulman as well. I met some guys from RIT. So like, it's not you don't have to be limited to the universities around you. Like for like the local events and stuff. Like yeah, you're going to be limited to the local universities. But when you're competing in all these different competitions, talk to those people, even if it's just chat. I picked up a lot of connections from doing that. And they may have some ideas or an even more established security club than you. Like RIT, as an example, their club Sparsa is pretty amazing. You know, it's been around for about 10 years. So, you know, ISUSec's not like that. But I leaned on those guys and said, I asked them about what they were doing. And this was even after the fact that I was running it. And basically, I got all the info from them and handed over to Adam. And so he's gotten some good advice from them. So, you know, don't dismiss the online competitions and talking to people either. I've just picked up too many valuable connections that way.
This is a pretty short slide, but it basically means you should be on every platform. In particular, we have a Twitter we sometimes use, but we use an email list a bunch. And just make sure that you're blasting out when you're meeting, what you're doing as often as possible. It also helps if you pick a consistent meeting time and date. For us, it's 8 p.m. on Wednesdays in Old Union, and we are always meeting there if school's in session. So that means that people don't really have to try and figure out if you're meeting this week or you're not meeting this week.
And it has been 8 p.m. on Wednesday since I started it. You know, I think maybe we changed the time once to accommodate for some other people, but it didn't really work out, so we switched it back. But the main thing is advertise. You have to promote. You have to promote what you're doing. Like, you can be doing the most awesome stuff in the world, but if you're not telling anyone about it, is it that awesome? You know, it's about educating others. So put your stuff out there.
You have alumni for your school. You should keep in touch with them. We didn't really know a whole ton of our alumni when we began this venture. Chris didn't know, I don't think, any, or you knew one or two.
Yeah, I didn't know any. So in fact, the first like alumni in security that I met was Nick Prococo, the guy that started Trustway Spider Labs. And really the only reason that I met him was because I won National Cyber League and he offered me an internship. And I think there's another guy, Andrew Jordan, who works for Apple. He's a pen tester there, but I did CCDC with him. And then we have this guy in the back of the room that works for Project Zero. And I think that about covers the alumni that I know.
I consistently meet alumni pretty frequently, mostly when we win CTFs at conferences and stuff. People will come and shake my hand afterwards, or when we're sponsoring conferences, and they'll say like, hi, you know, how's it going? I'm an alumni. Depending on how much they want to be involved, we invite them to speak and, you know, come and talk to us and keep in touch with us. It's very cool to see alumni speak from two perspectives. One, you'll learn about how your university used to be. We have some alumni who were in computing back when our university had some interesting policies and did some interesting things with their networks and computers, and there are some stories they can tell you. So you'll get to hear those, which are fairly entertaining. But you'll also get to hear about the current industry. I love academia. I do a lot of research in academics, but it is not necessarily representative of real life. There are people who move much faster in real life than we do in academia. And so there are people who can come and give you talks about, you know, hey, PowerShell scripting is a really cool thing that you should know, which is not something that was in our academic courses up until like a year and a half ago or so.
See, I'm the complete opposite of Adam. I do not love academia. So I'd encourage you even more to talk to these people that are actually working in the industry and doing it. So attending conferences, like I've said before, networking, talk to people. The most important thing is be yourself. You know, attend the talks, go to the workshops, go actually learn stuff. Get the most you can out of the conference. Like, participate in everything. If you see someone with a speaker badge, go talk to them, ask them what their talk's about. They'll probably tell you a little more than actually is in their talk itself. You know, they might tell you some story that they couldn't include.
Feel free to walk up to speakers afterwards and ask them questions. I've done that before if I had questions about a presentation, and that's how I know some people very well to this day.
You know, talk about ISUSec, talk about your club, talk about your personal project, what you're working on. Talk to everyone that you can. Every person that you see, you go up and talk to them, whether they seem like they're somebody or not. Because when you're least suspecting it, someone will walk up to you, and they really are someone. It happened to me last night.
It's actually really disturbing. They like walk up to you and they'll be like someone really influential and just not mention that fact at all.
Competitions, form a team. I mean, do CCDC, do online CTFs, go to CTF time. Like, all of you start playing in it. Originally, the ISUSec CTF team was just me. No one played except for me, and it took a long time to get other people to play. Once they started playing, we started to see success. And I think a lot of it was that kind of imposter syndrome, a lot of self-doubt, not thinking that they could actually do it. But once we actually got them involved, they were able to do well, and some of them did really well.
Let younger students watch even if they don't contribute. There'll be people who want to play CTF but are not technically probably capable of playing CTF yet. Just let them watch and learn things.
A great example of this was B-Side Chicago CTF. We went up there, and actually my laptop died like, I think 30 minutes in or something. And so then I was just going behind everyone and giving them little pro tips because I've been playing CTF for a long time. And I'm like, okay, always do this, always do this. These type of challenges, always do this. Like, it's back to the basics, and sometimes you can just overthink things. So you need to have a plan for transitioning. I don't think I really had one. I was just like, Adam, you're going to run the club next. I think you should run the club next. Like, that would be awesome.
That was the exact words he said to me. And then he left. Yeah, basically. It's good to have a written document of what you're doing and what you're planning on doing. It's good to, for instance, if you have a bunch of boxes that you control, pass off passwords to those. We had a couple of boxes we had to re-image because we didn't know the passwords to them and couldn't get in touch. You know, make sure you pass off university contacts. You know, I am now leaving in a year, And so I am working on transitioning out. And one of the things I'm doing is I take the new head of ISUSec to a bunch of meetings that I go to that are involved in ISUSec, basically say, hey, this is the guy you're going to next be dealing with. He's going to be the person you have to talk to next year. So
I have a lot better plan. Mentoring. So one example I'm going to give is Joey right here. He's at the front. This guy, if you could stand up for a second. So, you know, we mentor a lot of different people. You know, we gave a lot of examples about JP, but Joey's one as well. You know, he actually works in security now. When I first met Joey, he didn't have any confidence in his ability to do this stuff. We got him doing it. We slowly taught him. We hold his hand for a little while, and now he's just going nuts with it. So sometimes it just takes a little TLC, and people will get there.
Give your name and contact info out to everyone. Fun fact, I've actually met somebody at a bar at a non-security related function, mentioned that I do security as a job, and he says, oh, my son's really interested in that. And I said, that's great. And he's like, can I get your contact? And I gave him my contact info, and his son sent me an email like 2 weeks later and asked for some help. So just be free about giving your contact information out to people.
All right, we've taken a lot of time, so if you have any questions or comments, let us know.
Come talk to us if you're trying to start a club. We'd love to help. We've done it. We've probably run into most of the brick walls, we think.
Thanks for coming.